Hello everybody, welcome to this session. In this section 10.4, we are going to discuss, AI's trends and directions in helping with writing, publishing, and presentations. It's a short session addressing the current trends and future directions. We want to know the emergent issues that are associated with the social media presence. Nowadays, even researchers, not to mention students, use social media to make their research findings known to the public. So the more people can cite their research work. So they probably put their research finding, their research work, or maybe your thesis, student's thesis, in social media, so people know, oh, I've done this, so you can cite my work. So in this process, want to know some of the best practice for using AI tools to help with this social media presence. And there's a workflow integration when we use AI tools to help with this social media presentation and the presence process. There's a workflow integration that we need to be aware of. There are 3 different approaches for doing that. And we want to discuss which approach might be more suitable for which condition. And then in the end, we want to reflect on emerging trends and future directions. Social media presence, it's part of the academic life these days because lots of people are doing it. Personally, I don't do social media, but like my co-authors from Italy, many students probably use social media to actually make their presence known. When they publish a paper, they put it on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, kind of broadcast to the world, like, okay, I've done this research. I've recently published this paper, therefore, please sign my paper, and so they can get more citations. Personally, I don't do that, but many people are doing it. Therefore, this social media presence is very important to academia life these days. And many publishers actually encourage researchers and authors to provide a social media profile and content to help with the visibility. Why? Because they want to promote your research. So if your research, your finding, your papers are promoted, more people will cite it, and that's good for the journals, it's good for their books and their publishers. For example, 2 years ago, I published a paper in a journal, and last year they asked me, can you provide, maybe you can provide a video summarizing the idea, and we can put your video in the repository somewhere, and people can access the video, they can know the video. They don't need to read your paper because it takes time. They can just in 5 minutes or 3 minutes video, they can know what you have done in your research, and that can help promote your research. I did not do it, but many people actually do it because that can help with your visibility and your citations. And AI right now can generate that kind of social media content more quickly. They can create an abstract, they can create a video or some highlight or threads based on what you need. And the different social media requires different formats, different audience or different preferences. And they can manage it for us quite quickly. But we need to pay attention to this process. We need to verify and monitor it. There are some sources, research purpose may not be fitting the way they do it. We need to make sure that it's kind of consistent with what we do. Does it fit with our research purposes? The material that are created, are they consistent and credible? The content it created, does it show accuracy? Again, AI tend to focus on efficiency, standardizations, and the patterns, but it doesn't recognize accuracy and rigor and relevance as much. But in academic research, we need to make sure it's relevant to the context. Data, figures, charts are created and generated for different social medias, they need to be accurate and relevant to our research findings. We all need to double check before we put it onto the social media. And there's also ethical considerations because digital content generated by AIs, sometimes they may violate ethical issues because we don't know how they generated those contents. So we don't know where those images or those diagrams, those figures, their summaries they created. We don't know where they're coming from. Are they from someone else's work, or they repeat someone else's presentations or images or charts? We need to make sure of that. Otherwise, we may violate academic integrity issues. Therefore, this is attention we need to pay to when we use AI to manage social media presence. Social media is vast. It helps with visibility, but once it's out there, it's difficult to manage because it could create some sort of viral effect, sometimes negative, sometimes positive to us, and it cannot be controlled by us. So we need to pay attention to how we use AI to manage the social media presence before we put things out there too quickly. The best practice for doing that is we need to balance between AI's automation versus our contextual needs. The visual effects, the quality, accuracy, credibility, and the relevance should fit with our purposes, with our context. We need to select the right AI tools to align with the resources that we got. We don't want to use tools that's beyond what we can control. And that in that way, it can fit with our research purpose a little bit better. Different versions that we need to control it. We need to know, what kind of changes, what kind of update will have been made along which version and for which format, for which social media. In order to smooth things out in this social media presence, we need to make sure that we document everything systematically. If we make changes in different versions, we need to save files and document it in a different way. And then also how we use AIs need to be a little bit more transparent. The attribution and licensing is very important. The materials that we need to make sure they are from reliable sources, a credible source. They don't violate academic integrity issues. Image they use, we need to make sure there's a authority, permission to use the things that they generate for us. Therefore, we need to pay attention to this. This will be the best practice. Try not to use any AI-generated images unless it's absolutely necessary and helpful. Otherwise, we may need to provide permission and licensing authority. Otherwise, when you use it, it may violate academic integrity issues. There are different workflow integrations, approaches that we can use to manage this process to help integrate all this visualization process. The first one, we can use the AI in the research data visualization pipeline. In this process, we typically process the raw material and then with AI generate visualizations, but we verified the scientific accuracy and then the content design's consistency and the presentation's quality, and then before we put it out there in the social media. This is particularly good for presentation focus. If you want to present some sort of a remarkable visualization effect, this is probably something we can use, pay attention to. The second approach is multi-platform content adaptation. Multi-platform content adaptation starts with summarizing core findings for our researches, and then we ensure we double check with facts, make sure the factual consistency is done, and then we use AI to generate content for different social media platforms. the same findings maybe need to reformat and regenerate digital content for different platforms. For Instagram, we probably generate particular content with the same findings. With Facebook, we probably generate another kind of content. And then we coordinate institutional branding and scheduling. What we mean by that is, at different months, different times, we use different branding approaches. Sometimes for publishers, for different purposes, different institutions, we connect with the different social media, and we schedule time to use different content to do branding, to market our research to different kinds of social media formats. This multi-platform content adaptation, this approach is most useful for managing different kinds of social media at the same time with different institutional purposes. And the third one is AI-assisted presentation development. This approach is useful when we have different kinds of team members. In the research team, we have maybe different collaborators, maybe even from different countries. So in the beginning, we can use AI to help structuring team roles. Who should be responsible for what? And then we coordinating team tasks. Maybe creating, scheduling, who should do what, and we double check everyone's scheduling, completing the projects on time, and then creating the templates, for the content that we want to complete. When we design the presentation or put in, different kind of format, we create templates using AI tools, so everybody can use the same templates. Look similar things, so we know we are doing the same research for the same purpose. We don't want one piece from one person, the other one looks totally different. It should be the same teamwork, the same project, the same research findings. Therefore, we need to create a similar templates, and maybe we adapt the content differently, refine the presentation and projects individually with some sort of personalized touch. So this AI-assisted presentation development approach, it's good when we have multiple collaborators that we can coordinate tasks among team members. And so this is what AI can help with the workflow integration. The emergent trends for using AI tools in this is managing social media presence or presentation. It's that we now see AI tools can immerse with different media and create more sophisticated data visualizations. And so our presentations nowadays are done in a really animated, intriguing way. For example, AI-driven 3D visualizations. Now we can see they can put data, textuals or research findings in a 3D format, in an interactive format, which means that in the 3D formats, the users can interact with the 3D formats. Like if we click on a certain part of that model, then it can pop up with some results and present some results for the users. Many publishers or different research fields have kind of used this kind of interactive effects efficiently. And VR and AR can also help with the presentations quite remarkably. For example, they can create immersive environments for the audience to interact with the data models. What we mean by immersive environments is that audience can engage in this virtual environment. It looks real, although it's not real, but it looks like real, and then they can interact with this virtual environment, and then the virtual environment probably can respond to it in a different way. And it can even enable the real-time data overlays with the live talks, which means that when we are doing the live presentations, maybe there's a VR or AR effect just along with the presenters that's overlap with the presentations, and then they can present the live in a real live presentation with the VR and AR effect. And furthermore, there's future directions that are emergent. For example, neural interfaces are here now. Then they can adjust the presentations based on the pace of audience engagement. Sometimes audience had a lot of questions. They ask a lot of questions, and therefore the presentations can go a little bit faster. Sometimes audience are a little bit slow. Maybe you'll go a little bit slower. It depends on the audience engagement and how much they pay attention to. If this content, audience pay attention to it a lot, and then they ask a lot of questions, we can adapt the content to respond to the audience attentions. And they can even enable the multi-users to interact data simultaneously. So, multiple users can engage with the interactions with the data models at the same time. And this is a neural interfaces emergent trend. Another emergent trend is quantum visualization. Quantum computing is arguably the fastest computing capacity emergent in the field. It's here now, but it's still under development. In the near future, it probably can create visualization effects really fast, instantaneously, in a multi-dimensional model, multi-dimensional data, because they can process data a lot faster than the existing capacity. So the quantum visualizations probably can create something quite intriguing. There's also AI-driven holographic, which is here now. They can have a holographic presence from a remote place. They can project presenters to deliver presentation in an environment like real life-like. And therefore, we don't need to travel. We don't need to fly to another country. We can still do presentations on site, and they can also enable full room holographic environment, which means that everybody is not on site but engage in the same environment at the same time, and they can adjust the presentations based on audience interactions. If audience interactions are fast or they pay attention to certain things, they can interact with it and adjust the pace to that from a remote place. So this is AI-driven holographic trend. All in all, in this chapter, we have addressed many things about AI assisting tools that can help with the drafting, that can help with the presentations and citations and referencing style managing. And we also talked about AI can help with academic presentation visual effects. And we just talked about how AI can also help with the social media presence and what is the best practice in managing the current trend and future directions of using generative AI. All in all, we need to pay attention to academic issues. We don't want to use AI content that may violate academic integrity issues because we don't know how they create those contents. We need to double check those contents before we use them and send it out there in the social media. That's all for this section. Thank you for listening.